Welcome to another exciting episode of Growth Leaders by Shot. Today, we have the privilege hosting an exceptional leader whose journey is nothing short of inspiring. Joining us is Sarah, a seasoned computer engineer with 15 years of experience who has excelled in the fintech space, providing software solutions for major global banks, but also channeled her passion for empowerment into founding Libro, a company that has transformed the careers of over 3,000 individuals. Sarah's dedication to youth and women empowerment, coupled with her expertise in professional branding and her innovative work supporting SMEs, small medium companies, and startups in France, truly makes her a trailblazer in her field. Sarah, welcome to the Growth Leaders by Shahs.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you for hosting me. It's my pleasure.
It's great having you here. And let's start here directly to see it. So now you've been in this journey for quite some time, but still not that. But how would you describe your leadership style and how has it evolved during your career, starting from the technical side now to you've been working with youth and you have your own company? Can you see how your own leadership style is changing?
Yeah. Let me start by saying that having a leadership position was never my goal at any point in my career. And looking back 15 years ago, even the concept of leadership, we had management, sometimes micromanagement. So I think now we have more awareness how leadership should be, like mentorship, influencing, support for the team, but was slightly different. And this is why perhaps at some point I didn't want to have also like a leadership role. I think when growing, you have more responsibility. So it becomes trivial that you're going to have to lead a certain team to be able to deliver the project or to be able to manage also their operations. So it was mainly the team who were pushing me to take a bigger role rather than me trying to seek to have a certain title, specific title, higher leadership title or something.
I think that is fundamental. If you are a leader and you actually have employees, giving them the chance to go maybe a little bit outside their comfort zone, but giving that trust. Did you get that also in your early career?
In the companies that I've been working with, I didn't have necessarily potentially the leader I was hoping to have, but I think that was a great learning curve for me to know to make potentially other mistakes, but not the same mistakes that I have seen also being done with me. But something that I've been following in my entire career is that I do not like micromanagement. I like to trust the team I'm working with to feel like they are partners, although I'm their leader, but they're also partner and owner of the project we're working on. So I might be tough with the people who might need certain kind of micromanagement to be able to deliver. I choose my team carefully, but I give them full ownership and space to actually deliver without going back and forth and checking on each single task. So this is why I feel it's more like a mentorship, a governance for the whole project or deliverables that we're doing, but not leadership or management in the old-fashioned way of defining it.
Yeah. So you have rather recently created PathlybySarah.
Yes.
So, and also, as I mentioned last time, with the beautiful logo. What is your vision with PathlybySarah?
So I've been doing consultancies for so long with the startups, with the SMEs across the EMEA region mainly, with few also like startups in the US. Honestly, I feel that we need to have more collaboration for SMEs specifically, because nowadays we see that we have the big tech. It's a little bit of a monopoly in the tech sector. We have the startups that are struggling with the innovation right now, especially that technology is moving very fast. And even the concept of MVP has evolved. Now, to consider something an MVP, it needs to be MVP plus, 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 which means it's not really as startups, only SMEs can develop such new products to be able also to compete. And I don't think it's an area that is really being touched upon as it should be. So I like to work with SMEs because I believe also in partnership. I don't believe that anyone should reinvent the wheel. So having, for example, SMEs in the MENA region collaborating with the SMEs in Europe It's going to be a great cross-borders collaboration from a technical perspective, professional perspective, PR for businesses, also business leads. But it also gives us a level of openness that we sometimes needed. Since I'm from the Middle East, I understand the importance of exposure on so many different levels. So I believe in this collaboration and partnership that would have benefit on all sectors and all streams alike.
So what you're looking here is the small, medium companies, maybe they're based in Northern Africa or Middle East,
Yes, and Europe, of
and
course.
then building the collaboration into Europe. So when we talk small, medium business here, what size are you looking at then for companies? And maybe also, is there specific industries you're looking into?
Yeah. So industry, it should be around tech. It could be potentially health tech or ed tech, but there is this tech layer. It should be a product base. It's preferable. Or if a service to actually make sure that this is part of the consultancy I do. It's how to actually be able to provide some service that is unique. So managed services without having a niche technology focused on or a product is very hard to sustain with, especially with AI now replacing the operational work. So this is part of also what I focus on with the startup. So the SMEs, we have two different, if we want, specters. So there's the revenue from 1 to 10 million, having around, we're gonna say less
What are we talking euros now?
no, dollars. It could be euros.
Dollars? Okay. Yeah.
Euros or dollars. So it's in this spectrum from one
Oh.
till $10 million. I'm noticing that the startups who want to go above 10 million have completely different challenges.
And what differences do you see if we take the 1 to 10 and then the above 10? I know there is organizational differences, etc., but how do you perceive it? What are the clear differences in terms of their need in order to continue to grow?
So some of the SME, for example, that I worked with, their problem, they reached $10 million. Their problem was that they were developing products. They weren't sure if they want to have this product because it might compete with the managed service they provide. Does it need to be a completely different company? Should it be part like an umbrella under the same company? But also they have faced the issue of a lot of turnover with their employees because the career path, the team were already around 50. So they reach a certain stage, but there's no opportunity really to grow or to go more in the ladder of even vertically or like from a leadership perspective or technical perspective. So the turnover started and they were struggling to actually expand and make sure they are having their employees staying in the company. So that was one of the examples, examples we had.
We see that also since we provide to, especially the SMEs up to a few thousand employees from, say, 50 employees, that there's more and more companies today who really want to invest where training becomes a strategic asset
Definitely.
for the company to keep the people, to re-educate them and make sure they're on the top instead of, as you say, getting a high churn and then you have to go into a recruitment cycle, which is expensive, it takes time, and we lose the pace. So I think that is a good example where there could be a lot done. So let's jump a little bit back in time.
Yeah.
There was a time when you were a leader in the tech woman program, and you had to travel to San Francisco. What happened there, and how has that influenced your mindset? Tell us what happened.
Sure. It's an exchange program with the US Department of State. There were around 100 women selected from all over the world. It was a very tough competition to actually go to San Francisco. Each one of us was hosted in one of the like Silicon Valley companies. I was hosted at LinkedIn, for example, where I worked on Libro as the idea validation, and even I got some materials on professional branding, especially when it comes to LinkedIn from this experience. But honestly, what I really got is it was the first time I was introduced to the concept of authentic leadership. We had the head of the engineering department at LinkedIn giving us a speech. I was always lean to having a leader that is authentic, transparent. I like transparency. This is a mutual trust between like the team and the leader. But it was the first time it was given as actually a title for a speech, and I really enjoyed it. I think it had a lot of influence on how I think about leadership as a whole. And second, definitely, again, as a woman coming from the Arab world, we don't usually have such kind of empowerment and believe we can go into far with our ambitions and dreams, and even having this balance between like life. It's a choice. So having a lot of very successful women coming also from this region, who I consider sisters so far, it was very important to create like a community of like-minded women. We definitely got the support of the mentors, but that ended with the program. But even us as leaders who participated in the program, we are still the main support for each other along the way. So I think also that had a huge positive influence so far until today.
Yes, and how were you able to bring back those experiences into Libro, which, as I understand, was an organization for youth and women? Is that
Yeah.
correct?
So
Yeah.
I used to help youth and women like work on their professional brand, but also find better opportunities, know what skills they need actually to improve. I also had with 40 experts, we worked on actually upskilling and reskilling, also like workshops for those youth and women to find better opportunities. I also had one-on-ones with senior and executive, but that was a little different. But I'm very involved in the communities also in the region. So it's not only the paid type of service, but even from a volunteering perspective, I created a community that had reached 7,000 developers. It was supported by Meta at the time. They stopped the program. But the main part is when you see that the community leader were both a woman and a man. So it gives also empowerment for the woman, because I made sure that every time we invite speakers, we always had women. And it's not only for the quota, because I'm not with just bringing women for the sake of the gender. But it's really, I'm definitely sure that we have very capable professional women to be invited every single event. And I've also been involved in other communities from a social perspective to work also on the mindset with young women, because professional, we cannot completely disconnect it from the social part. They are interconnected at many levels. So if we want to support women empowerment professionally, we need to understand the social boundaries also to be able to support them better. That was also part of what I did.
And I think it's a super important initiative you're working on, and we can clearly see also there are cultural differences. I mean, if we go into the Arabic world and compare it to the Nordics and other countries, there's some work to be done. We also see, at least in the Western side, very much that younger women, they are actually performing better in the universities. And we see a rapid growth in higher leadership roles, actually all over the world. And it is having these communities will clearly strengthen the case to do that successfully. So when you look at younger professionals looking to climb the ladder or take on more responsibilities, what advices would you give them, man or woman?
Yeah,
It's not
I think
matter.
mentorship is very important. The concept of mentorship we weren't aware of when we were younger. The importance of creating professional PR as well, going to the conferences from a young age, getting to know people, learning about opportunities. Sometimes when we are studying at the university, again, we live in this box of the university, of our studies. We don't really understand what is beyond actually in the market. Also leveraging for the students specifically, leveraging any project they're doing, if it's final year project or freelancing project, trying to think about it visionary on the long term. How they could leverage this project of this exercise to actually turn it into something bigger, potentially yes or no. But it's worth also to have this type of planning for later. But definitely, I would say mentorship at any age, not only for young people. We all need mentor, because no one is expert in anything. So at any point of our career, we might need someone to help us in a certain matter. So mentors definitely are important. But to find the right mentors, we need to be exposed to actually the best
Exactly.
leaders and experts in the market. That's why we need to be more involved in the ecosystem activities as a whole.
And I think also when you're working through communities, even though it may be live events or digital events, getting to know people, that's also where you find, okay, there are some specific skills in that area, or by her and him, etc. Because many times it's about knowing people. You'll have your own skill, and then you add that on with other people and maybe work together. So have you had any major fallbacks, setbacks in your career, which you today say, well, that has been a lesson for me?
Yeah, I think like all our career is a learning, honestly, lessons
Mm,
learned throughout the career. So I spent for example, at Mirax almost 6 years. It was a multinational company. I think the best I learned at Mirax was mainly the client-facing part, the communication part. But I wasn't aware at then that I need to be more curious to understand, because in big companies, you focus on your operational part, but you don't necessarily understand where do you fit in the whole chain of work. What's really
mm,
the impact of what you're doing. And this is where I believe it's the role for the leader to make sure that their team see the value also of what they're doing, where do they fit in this whole organization. But second, I think I was so focused on doing my job properly, I wasn't curious enough to really understand the other side out of it, because it's a big company. When I started working in startups, SMEs, and the ecosystem, I started understanding really what a product manager or product owner role is, a project manager, how they collaborate together, developers, architecture, all of this type of technical wording. I did, even if I heard them, I didn't really understand
mm,
how they could plug together in a certain puzzle. So even for the people, my advice potentially for the people who work at multinational company, it's very important to know more, and not for
mm,
other team what they're doing and what is their role. In the company Libro that I also started, so I had to stop it in 2020 because we had a huge financial crisis. Also, I was in Lebanon, but I don't like to put it on the crisis
mm,
because I was so focused on giving the services. I didn't think also about productizing what I was doing, although they were repetitive tasks. So I think whenever we see also in a startup that there are same tasks being repeated on a regular basis, then we should directly think about automating it, because we could leverage the save time to
mm.
actually do something else. So this is definitely part of the
That's
lessons learned.
and that's also a good idea, because you can actually run a pretty small company with many of the processes as a large one
Mm.
if you select the technology pretty early on and actually implement the processes
Yeah.
well. And there's a lot of to be saved, and you get structure for your future growth. Very good. So when you're in a hectic day, and how do you balance your private life, to make sure you feel good, family feel good, you get the rest and you get the new ideas. So how is your fallback after a full day, or a full week, or a full month?
Yeah, I think now every day is a full day. So
Yeah. So,
I don't know. We need to find the balance as a family. I think also having like the right partner is essential. Now being a mother as well, so I have, being a parent is a full-time job also.
mm,
So juggling between motherhood, but also like career, other responsibilities. So it's not always easy, but I think we need to take it also like I wanted to be perfect in everything, because I wanted to say that all those stereotypes that women cannot do anything, they're wrong. But I burned myself out at some point because I needed to understand that I cannot be perfect as a mother, at the same time just peak also in my career, at the same time be the perfect wife. So seeking perfection in every single part of life that needs 4 FTEs to be able to do it is not really realistic.
mm,
So I think we need just to accept that it's ups and downs during this period, it's compromises. Again, this is why it's important to have the right partner, because if I have very important milestones in my career, he needs to help me more, for example, with the child and vice versa. So it's just finding out the balance with time, but there's no one rule fits all type of formula. Doesn't exist.
Is communication important in the family to
Yes,
make this happen?
definitely.
So, before we go into some rapid fire question with you, so what is your long-term goals, both as a leader and for your company, as you continue to support small, medium companies and startups? Have you defined your own vision? And I don't know how long that stretches. Sometimes it stretches for a year or two, sometimes it's very long.
I think the goal for me is to enjoy what I'm doing. I've worked before in jobs that I didn't enjoy. So for me, I want to enjoy what I'm doing. And joy for me generally is definitely having a sustainable business. That is for sure. But making sure I have impact. I receive very frequently messages on my LinkedIn saying that we were part of your workshop and now we reached this place, so thank you for that. Or like the startups has went from this far to this far because of what you're doing. This really is a huge driver for me. So, but along the way, I need to keep developing also my skills, because otherwise you can never advise people or consult people if you are not yourself taking new projects, trying yourself, also learning. So this is why I did my AI studies, for example, because you cannot talk about innovation today without knowing what AI means and how to integrate it in businesses. So for me, as long as I'm doing impact and as long as my business is sustainable, then I'm happy. So I think impact is my main driver.
Yeah, and I think that's great. So now let's move into some rapid fire questions. What's your favorite dish?
My favorite dish, I think my mother cooks a really good Lebanese dish that I miss it a lot.
That's great. What's your favorite book that you recommend to others?
The Secret. So I know it might sound cliche, but it always helped me be grounded whenever I feel down. I read it again. I don't know how many times I've read it, because it just to remind ourselves that really whenever we go into the negative path, we need to understand that we're also attracting this negative energy. So to go back and change something to break the cycle. So it's really my favorite book because I never get enough from it. I always come back to it whenever I feel I need this positive push.
Thank you for that. If you had to describe your leadership style in one word, what would that be?
Authentic.
Who's a leader, past or present, that inspires you most?
Authentic answer. Today,
Yeah.
I don't have someone specific in mind from the normal leaders that we know of, because we read history books. We're not sure how accurate anything we read is 100%, knowing that we see how the present could be tweaked at some points. So from the tech perspective, definitely I was inspired by a lot when they started the big tech companies growing, seeing what they were doing. But now it's a little bit disappointing to see how it's going more into leveraging it for power. So, the leader at some point that was inspiring changed this image for a long time. But honestly, for me, every person who they are trying hard to make their life better, their community better, are from the people that I look out to. And I told you I was this community of people around me that they inspire me all the time and empower me to keep going. It's this community that I saw them overcoming those same challenges, but they're still kind. They still believe in this kindness and support of other people around them, even if at smaller scale, but this is the maximum that they can do. Any single person who have such kind of attitude and mindset is definitely an inspiration for me.
It's wonderful. If you could learn a new skill instantly, what would that be?
Hip hop dancing.
Yes, why not? That's great. Thank you so much, Sarah. It's great having you on Growth Leaders podcast and getting your insights, thinking, ideas, and stimulation
Thank you
to
for
other
having me.
people.
I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.